Welcome back. Today we're going to tackle a concept that, let's be honest, gets misunderstood all the time: productivity. We're going way beyond the usual life hacks and to-do lists. Instead, we're going to look at it like a science, really, a way to engineer human excellence. So let's just dive right in.
Okay, right off the bat, we have to challenge the story that most of us have been told. You know the one, the myth that productivity is all on your shoulders. It's about your personal hustle, your grit, how well you manage your time. But the truth? Well, the truth is something else entirely. Real, lasting productivity isn't about how hard you paddle. It's the natural result, the emergent property of a really well-designed system.
So, what exactly does that mean? Well, here's the core idea. Productivity is really about the connection between what a person can do and what the system they're in allows them to do. It's something that's engineered, not just a personal trait. So, think of it less like trying to run faster on a hamster wheel and more like building a finely tuned, high-performance engine.
So here's how we're going to get there today. We'll start with building the right foundations. Then we'll talk about powering the human engine. After that, we'll get into optimizing the whole system, figuring out how to measure what actually matters, and we'll wrap up with something called the zero-waste mindset. All right, first things first. You can't build a skyscraper on a shaky foundation, right? So before we can even begin to talk about hitting peak performance, we have to construct the right underlying structure. This is the crucial scaffolding for everything else we're going to talk about.
And building that foundation follows a pretty logical path. It all starts with designing how the work actually flows. Then you embed that workflow into a bigger system. Once that's up and running, you have to measure its performance, because only then can you understand its true, sustainable capacity.
Let's break that down. You can think of the workflow as the assembly line. The system? That's the entire factory. And measurement, well, that's your quality control, making sure everything is running right. When you put all those together, they reveal your true capacity, the absolute maximum you can produce without the whole thing breaking down.
Okay, so with that solid foundation in place, now we can turn our attention to the most important part of this whole machine, the power source, the human engine.
And just like any engine, this one needs fuel and, just as importantly, maintenance. Uptime isn't just about showing up, it's about having the psychological readiness, the mental clarity to actually perform at your best. And this is the key takeaway here. Downtime isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. It is an absolute biological necessity if you ever want to recover and hit peak performance. Ultimately, what we're trying to create are the conditions for flow. You know that feeling, right? Being in the zone, where you're so locked in that the work just feels effortless and time flies by. A well-designed system is all about removing the friction, the little annoyances that keep us from getting into that state. Now, to fuel that human engine, we need two key things. First, we need really clear goals. They act like a focusing lens for our energy, making sure that none of our effort goes to waste. And second, we have to consciously manage our exertion. And that means our physical, our emotional, and our cognitive labor. It's a balancing act, maximizing output while making sure we don't completely burn out.
All right, the system is built, the engine is humming along. What's next? Well, now we fine-tune it, we optimize it. How do we make this thing run as smoothly and efficiently as humanly possible?
The number one enemy of any optimized system is the bottleneck. You know what I'm talking about, those frustrating choke points where work just piles up, everything slows to a crawl, and value starts to degrade. Just finding these bottlenecks is the first crucial step to unlocking a whole new level of performance.
And that, of course, brings us to the big question, the one every single person trying to improve a process has to ask. So how do we clear the jam and get things flowing again?
Well, luckily, we've got a pretty powerful toolkit for that. First up is automation. And look, this isn't about replacing people, it's about reallocating our most precious resource, human creativity, to strategic work by letting machines handle the boring, repetitive stuff. Next, we have the lean methodology. This is really a mindset focused on one thing, relentlessly hunting down and eliminating any step in a process that doesn't add real tangible value. And finally, just in time. This simply means getting the right info, the right tools, or the right support to the right person at the exact moment they need it. It completely vaporizes those wasteful delays.
So we're optimizing, we're making changes, but how do we actually know if any of it is working? This brings us to a really critical piece of the puzzle. We have to measure our progress, but we have to be sure we're measuring what truly matters.
I mean, this quote from our source material just says it all, doesn't it? Without good data, you are flying blind. You end up managing what you think is going on, not what's actually happening on the ground. Measurement is what replaces those dangerous assumptions with cold, hard reality.
And good measurement is way more sophisticated than just, counting how many things you made. KPIs. Think of those as the signals on your dashboard. Throughput is basically your velocity, how fast you're going. Yield tells you how efficiently you're turning effort into actual results. But the real game changer is return on time. That's the ultimate metric. It asks, are we getting the absolute highest strategic value from our most finite resource?
And this right here, this is a trap that we all fall into. It's so easy to measure and reward input, rewarding busyness, how many emails were sent, how many meetings people went to, but real productivity is about rewarding output, the actual tangible contribution to valuable outcomes. We have to get better at telling the difference between just activity and real results. But listen, all of this output, all this speed and efficiency, it's totally meaningless without the great balancing force in the equation: quality. A high rate of production doesn't matter one bit if what you're making is flawed or, worse, nobody wants it. Quality is the thing that ensures all our effort actually creates something desirable, durable, and valuable. And that brings us to our final, and maybe the most powerful, concept. We've built this amazing system, but how do we make sure it doesn't get stale and inefficient over time? Well, that's where we adopt the zero-waste mindset.
This idea is called zero-based thinking. At its heart, it's a powerful commitment to fighting off that, but we've always done it this way, inertia. It's about constantly challenging your processes by imagining you could just wipe the slate clean and start all over again from scratch.
And it all comes down to asking this one simple, incredibly powerful question. This is the question that fuels constant improvement and keeps a system from getting stale. So, look at your own work, your team's processes, your company's systems, and ask yourself, honestly, if we were starting from scratch today, would we still do it this way? The answer to that question, well, it can change absolutely everything.